and pray to the Lord in its behalf, for in its shalom you will find your shalom. That's our leitmotif, our life verse, our how we ground the work of shalom and the work that Communities of Shalom is about. And the way we spell shalom, as you've heard from the ministers of shalom, is as an acrostic where every letter is a thread. So 12 students from Drew this summer took the threads of shalom in their hands and worked with others in their communities to reweave and rebuild, renew and restore the broken textures of communities, transforming them and transforming the world one community at a time. Creating shalom zones is one way to bring about peaceful and just restoration of the disruption of community life. We all know what shalom is not. The Bible is filled with descriptions of systems gone awry, sin and dysfunction, injustice, oppression. We study what shalom is not. What is shalom? God's intentions in creation for health and wholeness and harmony and healing and welfare for all people and for the cosmos. The prophets of shalom, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Amos, Micah, have provided in their texts some very practical ways of seeking shalom. Isaiah 61 is one of many examples. In Isaiah 61, we have a very familiar passage that Jesus quoted in his inaugural sermon in Nazareth and applied to himself, right? The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me, has sent me to bring good news to the oppressed, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and release to the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor, the year of Jubilee. And then in verse 4, the text changes from me to they. Very interesting here. And they shall build up the ancient ruins. They shall raise up the former places of devastation. They shall repair the ruined cities. And you shall be called priests of the Lord. And you shall be named ministers of the Lord our God. I'll just insert in there. And you shall be called ministers of shalom of the Lord our God. Isaiah is wonderful. It gives us a great vision of the peaceable kingdom. Skip over to chapter 65 in very practical ways of seeking shalom. I can only highlight a few verses. They shall build houses and inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards and eat their fruit. They shall not build and another inhabit. No flipping for investment. You've got to live in the house you build. They shall long enjoy the work of their hands. For the new creation is at hand. So the wolf and the lamb shall feed together. The lion shall eat straw like the ox, but the serpent, its food, shall be dust. And they shall not hurt or destroy on my holy mountain. The Lord has anointed me his Messiah. Jesus claimed that for himself. They shall rebuild the ancient ruins and the places of devastation. They is we. We is they. The children of Israel, the children of God, the children of the city, the people of the city, of the communities, of the neighborhoods who inhabit the houses, who plant the gardens. They shall be called ministers of shalom. Well, what does shalom look like in particular communities where our Drew students have been this summer? What does it taste like, feel like, smell like? in tangible, concrete ways. Not macrocosm, but microcosm. Shalom. Haiti, Josh. Shalom looks like rebuilding houses destroyed by an earthquake. Looks like restoring a sense of safety and security, creating opportunities for economic development. Not as the minister of Shalom, but as the organizer and the developer, empowering people to claim what is theirs. Far Texas, where Yvette was, venturing out into unincorporated areas on the border of Mexico, colonias, and organizing residents, both legal and undocumented, to claim their Shalom, raising hope. There may not be hope. Echo Park, Los Angeles, where Gaius served, embracing immigration reform, not just as social policy, advocacy, but up close and personal, through nurturing relationships with kids, with families who live in the neighborhood where he lived. What about the Peace Center at the University of Southern California, where Summer spent her summer working in the Peace Camp with kids from the hood, from kids in the immediate neighborhood who were familiar with violence, who didn't think of police as the peacekeepers, teaching them about peace, introducing them to peacemakers, real and historic, and teaching principles of conflict resolution. Spokane, Washington, where Catherine served, at a soup kitchen, but more than a soup kitchen, more than the Shalom dining room. Catherine watched people plant gardens and glean produce, securing donated food, and mobilizing volunteers to feed hungry people on the streets, helping the church downtown become more than a preaching point, but a neighborhood church, a neighborhood parish, including folks on the street, recovering addicts, and runaway youth, in the worshiping and sacramental life of the church. Not an easy transition to make for some of our churches. Buffalo, New York. Geralda, who's not here today, but she focused on mobilizing volunteers for a multicultural ministry in a tough neighborhood for youth at risk. Montclair, New Jersey, Barnaby, tough assignment. Organizing against all odds and against deep pockets of resistance. Sometimes successfully, sometimes not. Organizing the hard work of community development. Dallas, Texas, where Renee was, helping a social justice and prophetic focused church develop practical strategies, Shalom strategies for community transformation. Mazuzu, Malawi, Katrina, for 10 weeks, empowering young women and focusing on economic development for women learning to be tailors, sewing, school uniforms and shirts and blouses to sell, to support not only themselves, but the AIDS orphans in their care. Macon, Georgia, Burrell, making use of his community development skills in Newark, applying it to the South, and Macon, working through the mayor's office to help neighborhood coalitions design Shalom plans to reduce crime, to improve schools, to bulldoze dilapidated houses, and then rebuild them in a spirit of Shalom. Creating what the mayor of Macon